All right, everyone, we're going to get started. I'm using the microphone because we are actually recording the workshop this evening. We are working with SNJ today, and we will be recording all of our workshops moving forward, and then editing them into a half-hour highlight reel and placing them on our YouTube channel. So we will be sending out a tweet and on our Facebook a notification indicating when that's up on YouTube. So welcome everyone to the Grant Writing and Audience Demographic Workshop. I'm going to start by discussing grant writing as it pertains specifically to our Arts and History Re-Grant program, and there are some changes this year that will hopefully make everyone's lives a lot easier. And I'm going to go over those, and then we will take a short little bathroom break, although you're welcome to use the restrooms or grab some refreshments in the back at any time. And then Rachel Dukeman will give a presentation on audience demographics. We've heard a lot from you folks that one of the challenges is identifying who attends your events and how that information, that data, can be useful to your organization. And so Rachel is going to talk about both of those aspects. But we're going to start with me and grant writing. So the first big piece of news is that the Commission has instituted a pilot program in which organizations that receive general operating support and general programming support this year in 2014 will not have to do a full application for 2015. And these are the organizations. So if you are one of these organizations, relax, eat, enjoy. No, pay attention to what we're talking about. But I will be reaching out to each of these organizations individually. All we are going to ask for in order to secure your 2015 award will be an updated budget and an updated short narrative on any changes in your programming for 2015. And the awards will be based on this year's award, recognizing that the award can go up or down based on availability of funds and performance. Okay? And if you have any questions at any time, just raise your hand and I'll try to answer them. All right, so this is our 2015 grant application. And we have, I don't know if you may have participated in our re-grantee survey from about 2 months ago. The Commission sent a survey form out and asked you a variety of questions regarding the grant process. And the reason we were doing that was to try to make the application process as easy as possible and to reduce your overall cost in time and expense on the application so that more grant money can be used for programming. A couple of changes here. Number one, the deadline, October 17th, 2014. It's a Friday. All right, that gives you another 2 months to get the application up and ready. Also, you will see we have started to implement bilingual programming. Now, our goal originally was to make the entire application bilingual. However, we came up upon our deadline and we didn't have it done. So what we have done is one of our commission members, Maria Serra Moreno, is bilingual. And so we put a notification here that if there is a Hispanic organization that needs bilingual assistance, they can contact Maria, and then Maria will act as the translator as we walk them through the application process. And we feel that trying to bring in bilingual programming and advertising is very important in Cumberland County due to the large Hispanic population. We only need one copy of the application. No, you can submit the original with attachments. We do not need multiple copies. Other counties require 8 copies, 10 copies. We just need one. And the way that works is we then scan that document in its entirety, and we provide a scanned copy to all of our grant review panelists. They get a CD of all the applications rather than a big packet of paper. And then all of my contact information is here. You can download this application from the Commission's website, ccculturalheritage.org. And the form itself is in Word, and the budget forms are in Excel, and the cells are preset with equations so that you fill in your basic numbers and it fills in the rest of the budget form for you. Okay, so the big question, who can apply? Nonprofits in existence for at least 2 calendar years. So you need to have your IRS status for at least 2 years before you apply, and government agencies. Okay? What can be funded? Any publicly available cultural or history program in Cumberland County, taking place in Cumberland County in the 2015 calendar year. Okay, so if you are conducting an event in Cumberland County that is arts or history programming, and you are a nonprofit or a government agency, then you can apply for this grant funding. Right? Additionally, nonprofits whose primary mission is arts or history related can receive general operating support. Okay, and so the difference between special project and general programming, which relates to your events, general operating would relate to your day-to-day expenses. Okay? What cannot be funded? Capital expenses, so no building or construction costs. Equipment with a 3-year shelf life or longer. So, example, a photocopier would not be permissible. A computer would not be permissible. A painted backdrop for a stage would be. Sheet music, yes. Okay? So there's a little bit of wiggle room. If you're not sure, then email or call me. All right? Scholarships cannot be funded, and food and alcohol cannot be funded. Okay? But you can use your food expenses as your match, and we'll get into that in a minute. But we can't use the grant funds for food or alcohol. And match requirements. Okay, $1 of grant must be matched by another $1 from another source. Except for Cumberland County College, which has to match every grant dollar with $2. All right, so how can you think of that? Think of this picture. A bag of money plus a bag of money is a happy face. But basically it's 1-to-1. Okay? So let's do an example. Leroy Theater is performing Pirates of Penzance. The event is going to cost $12,000. How much can they ask for in the grant to us? $6,000. That's right, $6,000. All right? Any questions on that?
But if they don't have a match, then they don't get it.
They can't get the funding. So we look at, when we ask for the application, we ask in the budget forms to ensure that you're matching it dollar for dollar. If for some reason the match you indicate is less than the amount you request, the maximum you can receive is the amount that you're matching. Can't go above that number. Acknowledgements. All right? This is getting more and more important. And we have a couple of different grants from different sources, and so you will get different acknowledgement requirements. In this grant, Arts and History Re-Grants, these are the two acknowledgements you have to use. If you receive arts funding, you have to use the language at the top. You have to use the State Council on the Arts logo. If you receive history funding, you have to use the bottom, and you have to get the New Jersey Historical Commission logo. Now, the state website has different logos, different size logos for both organizations. If you have any trouble getting them, you can email me and I can facilitate getting those electronic files to you so that you can utilize those logos on all marketing and advertising related to the events being funded. In addition, we would prefer for you to use the Cultural and Heritage Commission logo, because that actually has in it the freeholder seal. So in your contract, it will say you have to use this language plus the commission logo and a little bit of language related to the Board of Chosen Freeholders. Because without the State Council on the Arts, the New Jersey Historical Commission, and the Board of Chosen Freeholders, the funding wouldn't be available. So we want to make sure they get the credit.
Can you expand on that? Where must you use these items?
So if you have a flyer, they need to appear on it. If you're doing a postcard, at least the logo has to be on the postcard. If you're doing a program book, there should be at least one page dedicated to acknowledgments related to the grant. Not necessarily, although if you have a page dedicated to the event being funded, then definitely the logo needs to be on it.
You need to put it in a press release.
Put it in a press release. Any press release going out needs to have the language in it. Yes.
Any individual things regarding the acknowledgements, let's say a banner or something you're having made, can that be budgeted in your original application?
Yes. So as a recipient of the grant, we ask that any events that you hold, that you have a banner dedicated to the Cultural and Heritage Commission. Now, we have banners that you can borrow for your events. And I know a lot of organizations here have done that. So we have a large one and a smaller one. You can use those.
But you could write that budgeted into the grant then.
Or you can purchase your own and put it in the budget.
Now that may have longer than a 3-year shelf life.
That's okay.
Just wanted to make sure.
Yes.
I incorporated into part of our letterhead during the event. Is that allowed?
We want to clarify, you can't use the term sponsored. All right, so we want to make sure that the specific language funding is partially provided by, rather than sponsored. Yeah, so a letterhead might indicate sponsorship in some way, so I think it's okay. But I would put a little caveat in there that, you might want to put like a little asterisk saying partial funding provided by these partners.
Yeah, funded in part by.
Yeah, exactly.
We have that.
Okay, great. So then that's fine. That's great. Okay, so you have, these are the different main components of the application. This is the signature page. And it's pretty straightforward. We're asking for contact information, a description of your event that fits in the program summary section. This is just a little snippet, just a one paragraph that we want that describes your event or program or organization if you're applying for GOS. And then you're going to put the amount of funding you're looking for, and you can apply to one of the 3 categories. Special project is for a one-time event in 2015. Special programming support is for multiple events in 2015. It doesn't have to be the same event, it can be a series, it can be a theme. If there are going to be multiple events, you want to go in for a general programming support. And then general operating would be if you're primarily an arts or history organization and you need help with insurance costs and rental costs and electric bill and phone bill, you can put in for a GOS application.
I
Okay?
see it says choose one, so you
Yes.
couldn't have specified two.
No, you have to choose one. The narrative. This is one of the areas that we've made it a little bit easier. We reduced the narrative to 4 to 8 pages. It used to be 6 to 8. If you can get the point across in 4 pages, then great. All the better for all of us. All right, these are the things you want to discuss in your narrative. Tell us about the project. Tell us how the project lines up with your organizational mission. Talk about who your audience is. Who are the artists that are going to be involved? Where and when is it going to be held? And what impact do you hope to have to the community that you're trying to serve? So that's what we're really looking for. All right, do we have any, does anyone want to give an example of an event? And we can talk about different, yeah.
I do educational programs for the school system.
Mhm.
So we are in the process of doing a museum and performing arts center on our tribal grounds.
Mhm.
So we have the children come to us now instead of us going to the children. So I did a pilot program last year with the help of a grant. Brought the children in, I had about 60 children attend. We did informational workstations on drum making, pine needle baskets, beadwork. They walked the nature trail. We had a guide taking to the nature trail to identify edible and medicinal plants. We had the Maplenapi village set up. They took a lunch break, and then we brought them back out, and we did about a 45-minute little mini powwow for them. We had them come in and dance with us.
Mhm.
So,
Very good. So your audience would be elementary school age children.
yes, from
Right.
preferably 3rd and 4th graders, because that's about the time that they are learning about Native Americans in history. So we were trying to dispel the fact that there are no Native Americans in New Jersey. They all have Weston teepees, so bringing them to us, yes.
And your event lines up with your mission perfectly because you are an Indian tribe and you're trying to promote your cultural and ethnic history,
Yes.
right?
And our tribal members are included in that. As I said, we have tribal members that do beadwork demonstrations, my needle basket, the dancing and drumming, the drum making. So it's all our tribal family that participates in the program.
Very good. And just a little bit of grant humor. I'm a fiction writer in the grant proposal genre. So you want to try to make the narrative interesting to read, but you also want it to be factual and accurate. All right? Publicity plan. Adams Family, that's a subgenre of audience member. 1 page, that's all we need, 1 page for the publicity plan, but we want a specific publicity plan in addition to the narrative. All right, who is your intended audience? Is it Cumberland County residents? Is it a subset of Cumberland County residents? Is it a regional audience? All right, if it's a regional audience, what marketing are you doing to bring that audience into your event? So if you say, we're going to pull from the 3-county region, and we're going to do that through flyers handed around in Bridgeton, there's a disconnect. It's a big disconnect. So we're going to want to see if you're pulling in regionally, we want a media program that's going to really do that. Do you use social media? Is your organization on Facebook? Do you have a Twitter account? What's your website look like? What is the traffic coming in on your website? Are you utilizing social media effectively? Because that's an easy, free way to market your programming. Is your marketing bilingual? Are you at least making some attempts to attract a large proportion of the county population that is primarily Hispanic speaking? If your program is the Jewish Film Festival, right? Now, there may be audience members in the Hispanic community who would be interested in that. If you're identifying that that is an underserved portion of your audience, then how are you working to bring the Hispanic community into that programming? And that applies to all subsets of the county population, which Cumberland County is a minority-majority county in New Jersey, one of only two where minority populations equal the majority of the population in the county. Okay, so it's important that we diversify our audience. Right, we want to do that as much as we can. How do you target underserved communities? All right, so an example would be inner city youth. Is there a way for you to market to them, to try to bring them into your programming and have them able to experience what you're trying to do and what you're showing? The disabled community. What portion of your population or your audience on an annual basis are disabled? If the number seems really low to you, are there methods in your marketing that you can try to attract that audience to your programming or make them feel comfortable to come to your event? And do you collect audience demographics? And how do you do it? And we're going to talk about that later tonight. All right? So that we know some of these things. The ADA plan. Now, we had a special workshop last year on ADA plans, but I want to discuss it a little bit with you tonight. 1 to 3 pages for an ADA plan. What we actually, when we receive an application, we submit the applications to an ADA advisory subcommittee comprised of members of the disabled community in Cumberland County. And they review your plan for accessibility. They then provide comments to the full grants review panel. And the panel then makes recommendations that go to the commission, and the commission then makes award recommendations to the freeholders. So it actually goes through 4 levels of review, each application. The first one is the ADA Advisory Subcommittee. And they have been meeting, we've been meeting with them, working with them for 6 years now. And we still receive applications in which the ADA plan is 2 sentences. We fully comply with the ADA code and we are fully accessible, period. There is no way for the ADA review subcommittee to identify whether you really do or not. So some of the things we want to see in every single ADA plan is to describe your venue and how it's accessible. So if you own a venue, great, talk to us about ADA parking, handicap parking, ramps to your facility. How, if you have programming on a 2nd floor, how do you get up to the 2nd floor? How does someone in a wheelchair get up to the 2nd floor? Your bathrooms, are the doors wide enough? Are the pipes under the sink wrapped so that someone in a wheelchair pulling up to the sink won't be burned on their knees by hot water flowing through the pipes? Is there braille signage for the restrooms? Right? All of these are important. If you are renting or using someone else's facility, we want you to visit that facility and give us just a rough breakdown on these conditions. If you're using Landis Park, are there handicap parking facilities at Landis Park? Are you going to be using handicapped accessible porta-johns? All right, these are things we want to see in the plan. How does your organization handle complaints regarding the lack of accessibility? So we ask for a grievance procedure, and some organizations identify a grievance procedure more along the lines of an employee grievance procedure. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about you have an event and someone in a wheelchair can't really gain access to the performance. And they complain about it at the event to a volunteer. I can't get in front of the stage. What is the process that you have in place to handle that complaint? So does the volunteer take a written statement and then present it to the board at their next meeting? Does the board then review it and have a specific time period, let's say 30 to 60 days, to respond to the complainant with recommendations on how they're going to improve accessibility at that facility? There has to be a process in place at your board level that handles complaints regarding accessibility of your events. Yes?
Okay, question. If you're at someone else's venue, and they don't have all these things that are required, is it your responsibility to comply with all of these? To make it?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have, when you receive the contract from us, there is a ADA compliance rider that goes with that. You can create a compliance rider for your venues, and you should. All right, so if you're going to use the Boy Theater, you're going to use the college, right? You should have a compliance rider that you hand to them and say, I need this completed and signed off by your organization saying you have these facilities available. All right, now, the plan indicates that if you don't have everything, that's okay in the sense that you need to be making 3-year plans on how to make sure that you have everything in 3 years. So if you're using a venue this year and they don't have everything, then the plan should indicate, the venue indicated that they are working on providing full accessibility. Or we will be looking next year for a fully accessible facility. Something
But
more.
should all of those, based on the signs up there, should all of those be met, or at least majority of them?
No, you can have a statement in your advertising that says, special accessibility services, right, can be provided given that we are notified within 2 weeks prior to the event. If you receive a call, let's say somebody says they need assisted listening services, all right, for an event, and they call and they say they need that, right, then you can reach out to us and we will help you fulfill that request, okay? If you notice in our flyer for this workshop, we had that language in the margin of the workshop. We indicated there was handicapped accessible facility, that large print was available, and that if you needed anything else, contact us prior to the event. And then we'll work to provide it. Yes?
You mentioned that if you were using another venue, I think you call it a rider?
Yes.
That you wanted, do you have a sample language for that available?
Yes, so in the contract that you received from us, there is an ADA compliance rider that we ask you to sign for us. And you can use that, you can basically replicate that rider if you want to. And you use that for your venues that you're using. So you just replicate it and hand it to the,
But that should be part of your planning for the grant
It should be.
application. So you have that available then?
it's on our website. Yep. How do you market and promote to the disabled community? And what is your organization's accessibility mission and goal? So every organization should have a separate mission statement on providing full accessibility and making that just a standard mantra for your organization. Finance charts. They're easy this year.
Easy.
Easy. All right, so in the past, we've asked for multiple previous years. We're not doing that this year. All right? All we want to know is, did you get a grant from us this year?
Yes.
If the answer is yes, you put your budget for this year in the first column, 2014. Okay? Yes.
We cannot type on that product. We have to do everything by hand.
Okay, then what I can do is, that's okay.
Each and every one of them.
Okay, you can do that.
That takes too long.
Well, we can convert the Excel sheet to, let's say, a Word document. Would that be better for you?
Perfect.
Okay, we will do that, and make sure you check with me at the end of so I get your email, and I will
Sure.
email it to you. All right?
It does make it look a lot easier, actually.
It does, yeah. All right, so if you received a grant from us, you put the budget numbers from this year, from your contract, you can put right from your contract, you can put it right in the first column. If you did not get a grant from us this year, you don't have to put anything in that column. Okay? 2015, this is what you're asking for 2015. You're going to put your total event budget here, and then you're going to split it 50-50. And you don't have to do it. Let's say artistic salaries are going to cost you $8,000. You do not have to put 4,000 and 4,000. You could put all 8 on the grant request, so long as in other categories you have at least 8 in match on your column. Okay? And that's it. For income, that's showing, or I'm sorry, that's expenses. So you're going to talk about the total cost for your event. All right, and then income is even easier. Again, if you received a grant from us in 2014 for a program, you're going to take right from your application for this year, you're going to put your income. What was your income for your event? All right, and then you're going to propose your income, your projected income for your event next year. All right, ticket sales, rides, if you have any rides, income to be spent on investments, if you have any corporate or business donations, any foundations or nonprofits, individual donations, government grants other than ours, and then down here you're going to put our grant that we gave you, and then the amount you're asking for us in 2015. All right, and the grants review panel does look at this, and they're looking for anomalies, right? So they're looking to see if your, go back one. All right, let's say your administrative salaries in 2014 was $4,000. You're conducting basically the same event this year, but your administrative salaries have doubled. All right? Why? We want to know. All right? Not that there's anything wrong with doubling the administrative salaries, but, you know, a couple of our grant review panelists are like, whoa, wait a second, what's going on here? So we just want to get an understanding, which is why we recommend, it's not required, but it's recommended, that you put a little budget narrative. So if there are any strange anomalies like that from year to year, you just put a little note in a budget narrative after your budget form saying, we doubled administrative salaries this year because we hired somebody new and their salary, blah, 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 whatever it is. Okay? And then fundraising. And again, you want to know what fundraising you did this year and what you're projected to do next year. The important thing here is that we are looking for organizations to diversify their funding sources. Very important, given the economy, blah, blah, blah. But we want to see attempts at diversifying funding. And all we're looking for are attempts. We're not looking for necessarily success. So if you approach Target for a $500 grant, we didn't get it, I'd still put under corporations, Target, 0. All right, at least that shows us that you tried to get a grant from Target.
Oh.
Okay, so if you tried Geraldine R. Dodge Foundation and you asked for $1,000 and you didn't get it, still put Geraldine R. Dodge Foundation, because then we know that you're looking at other sources of funding.
Under foundations?
Under foundations, that one would go, yep. And we want you to write right in there, Target, Acme, all right, wherever. And that's for bigger grants. If you're getting, $50 sponsorships for your program book, you're just gonna, you would put that probably, you could put it under corporations and just indicate program book ads or something like that, and indicate how much money you're making off of that. All right, just once, the panel wants to see your attempts at diversifying funding sources. And that's it. That's basically the application. Right? There's activity sheet, so you just describe, what activities you're planning on doing in 2015. Write them in there. And then there's a demographic page, so we delineate in Cumberland County what the population of Cumberland County is, how many are disabled, how many are seniors, how many are kids, how many are African American, how many are Asian American. Right? And we ask for you to put, all right, how many of each entity is on your board currently, how many of the artists that you use fall into those categories, and estimate how many of your audience fall into each category. And other, when you go to audience, it's estimations, and again, Rachel's going to talk about how to collect that data tonight, so hopefully that'll help. Yes?
Okay, so when you say, like, for instance, your program book, so when we have our powwow every year, we sell pages for ads, so
Right.
would that would be considered part of the contribution?
I would put under corporations, program book, if you made $6,000 doing that, put $6,000.
So we wouldn't have to list the individuals,
Yeah.
we would just say business sponsors or something
Right.
like that, okay?
Yep. All right, are there any questions? Yes.
Does that also fall for businesses that may provide donations other than financial donations?
Right, like
You estimate the cost, example, food donations, or they give you space in their facility to store some things?
That would be considered in kind. We want to see cash.
Gotcha.
All right, now in your budget narrative, you can mention
In kind.
in kind, but for our calculation purposes in Cumberland County, we want to see cash.
Okay. So really you have two then? You have an
You
in
have
kind,
two, yeah.
and then you have the actual cash.
All match has to be cash.
All match has to be cash.
Gotcha.
All right, and then if you have not liked us on Facebook,
I'll do it right now.
please like us on Facebook. And if you're on Twitter, follow us on Twitter. And we will be, I have been trying to get to events, and our commissioners act as liaisons with our re-grantees, and they attend events. And we will tweet about the event, either live from the event itself or soon after with photos. So we are a source of free advertising for you as well.
Nice.
All right? Yes?
In kind. You said something about mentioning it. Where would you mention that? If it can't go in the budget because that match has to be cash.
In your budget narrative. So I would recommend if you have a lot of in-kind expenses or income, then do a short budget narrative and tell us about your in-kind contributions.
And we can insert a table indicating,
If you wanted
if
to.
I indicated 5 locations and the in-kind estimated amount of money, that would suffice?
Yes. Yep, that'd be fine.
What kind of consideration would you give for the penalty for the economy if you say some of those sorts of things?
Well, we want to see, you have to have a cash match, that's the max that we can give, right? Whatever your cash match is. But if you provided, let's say you're asking for 3,000 and you have a cash match of 3,000, but you have in-kind contributions of an additional $8,000, and you describe that to us, the board, the Grants Review Panel and Commission may be more inclined to give you a full award of 3,000, recognizing that you're doing a lot of work on the ground in in-kind contributions. So anything like that can make a difference. I mean, organizations that receive grants from us know that we like to try to give everybody something, but our budget is limited, and so typically you do not get the amount that you request. We try to get as close as we can, but we rarely get to the full ask, right? I will say, we actually received an increase this year from the state for our grant program, and although the budget subcommittee is not met, I'm expecting that both our arts and our history grants will increase for 2015. I don't have the numbers yet, but they will most likely be higher than they have been. So we encourage organizations that have received funding in the past from us to certainly reapply, and for new organizations to reach out to us and work on their initial application so that we can start funding you. Also recognize that if you are a first-time recipient of re-grant funds, that award is usually on the lower level because we want to test you out through a grant year to make sure that you can comply with all the conditions. So there's usually a test year with maybe $1,000 or thereabouts in an award. And then, provided everyone's comfortable with the performance, then it can go up. Okay? Any other questions? All right, we're going to take a 3-minute break, grab some food, we're going to get Rachel set up, and then I'm interested in seeing this too, how we're going to get audience demographic data and how we're going to use it. All right, thanks.
All right, how's everyone doing this evening?
Good.
Yeah, that's good, huh? This presentation is about audience demographics, about audience information and market research. Not sure it's quite as exciting as about the opportunity of getting grant funding, so I'm going to try to keep it as lively as possible. I also understand it's 7 o'clock, the end of your day, so please just do me a favor and participate as much as possible. And I certainly wouldn't expect you to want to participate with a stranger, so allow me a few minutes to introduce myself. My name is Rachel Dukeman. I'm the lead consultant and founder of a planning and marketing firm in Philadelphia called R&R Creative. We specialize in integrated strategic solutions, trying to have a holistic view, sort of a big picture take on planning so that it's easy to implement for all areas of a nonprofit management. I also have hands-on experience doing nonprofit management. For the past 3 years, I ran a small historic theater in Philadelphia called Plays and Players. So I'm very familiar with ticking off all those boxes and filling out all the grant forms, et cetera, et cetera. I also like to fancy myself a wine aficionado. Oh, I think I'm out of battery. Is that?
Hold on 1 second.
Okay. So let's talk about wine for a second. I have had the experience of going all around Cumberland County and Cape May County, because there's actually some really nice wineries around here. I don't know how many people are like Garden State Wine. I went to Sherritt, I went to Heritage, Bellevue. I did not go there, but maybe I should get that name from you and put that on my agenda. I haven't been there either. This is really north, right? Yeah. Closer to the shore?
Base Landing, but it's also, they have a place in Landis Marketplace in Vine.
Right here. So on my
Yes.
way home. All right, well, so you guys got to know a little bit about me. I would like to know the same about you. So just by easy just show of hands, how many people work for a nonprofit in Cumberland County? And how many board members? And volunteers? Awesome, okay, good, then great, that's a great mixture. Did I miss anywhere, is there any involvement with the nonprofit level I missed? Okay. So then how about different types of nonprofits? How many theaters? How many arts galleries? How many cultural centers? Historic homes? Okay. What am I missing?
Library.
Libraries, museums, okay, yes. Sorry? Dance companies, okay, so it's a very diverse collective group.
We're a youth development organization.
Youth development, okay. And I'm sorry, I saw a hand in the back.
Same thing.
Youth development. Okay, excellent. All right, well, now that we're all best friends, I'm going to urge you all again. I want to make this just a very this is a presentation, it's a workshop, it's a discussion. We're going to be talking about market research and audience demographics. I do this a lot, so there's industry jargon that I might use. And if I do and you're not sure, just raise your hand, we can figure it out together. I don't like talking overheads, and I don't like talking down to people. So I'm going to try to talk mid-level, and if there's a question or something that you want me to extrapolate on, just let me know and we'll talk about it. Okay. So here's today's agenda. We're going to talk about different approaches to market research, why it's important, what we want to do about it, and then what to do with it once we have it. Okay? And to make sure we're all on the same page, I'm going to go over a few definitions. How many people currently use audience demographics? All right, so what does audience demographics mean to you?
The overall of a person, their location, where they're from, the
Geographic location,
ethnic background,
Okay.
age,
gender,
gender.
anything, okay?
Disabled.
If they're disabled, right? And so sort of like thinking of like census data, right? What? Yeah, median home, average, what's it called, median home income, right? Yeah, there are different age brackets. Sometimes it'll even tell you if they have kids. And then psychographics. So how is that done? People familiar with the term psychographics? Not as much. But you're familiar with psyche, right? Sort of in the mind and the brain. Psychographics, like demographics, are things about people that they might like. So it could be a little more subjective, right? It could change throughout their life. Something maybe like political affiliation, whether or not they, different family values. If they have grandchildren, might be considered more of a psychographic because it's more about them and their lifestyle. Does that make sense? Okay. Market research, we often use the term target audiences, right? This can sort of mean a lot of different things, but for this purpose, I'm calling the target audience the audience that you're trying to reach. So that could be your core audience. Core audience would be people who are your board members, are your core group of volunteers. If you're thinking of concentric circles, these would be the guys that are very close to you, right? The people that come to multiple programs. And then if you're thinking of the outer concentric circle, that would be more of a connected audience. So people who might be very easy to target as a target audience for your marketing, maybe the friends of your board members or the neighbors of your volunteers. People who are right around your physical location or where the physical location of your event will take place. Does that make sense? Cool. All right, benchmarks. A benchmark in this term for this presentation is going to be if you consider a qualitative snapshot of your organization. So if I take a look at the income from a particular event, that is a benchmark. That is one particular point in time quantitatively. And I could then maybe benchmark that data against the same event or similar event from either within your organization. So let's say I have a signature event that happens around the holidays. And the attendance or the ticket sales, I'm going to get those figures and I could benchmark it against the previous year. Does that make sense? Or, it doesn't have to be within your organization. you could take that same event, maybe it's a county fair, or it's a art opening, and I would compare it with another art opening of a similar organization or a like size area. So maybe another county similar in demographic or psychographic makeup to Cumberland County. Metrics. Who can tell me, what does metrics mean? Metrics, we've heard this, like performance metrics, okay?
Well, it's how you measure the progress or...
Exactly, it's how you measure, right? So if I want to set up metrics to measure how well my publicity campaign did, I might set up a Google alert to tell me how often my campaign was out on the internet, right? With whatever, name of my organization or whatever, alert me to that. If I wanted to see, if I had a fundraising event and I wanted to see how many new donors I got from that fundraising event, I might take my list of new donors and compare it to my list of old donors. And that easy comparison is the metrics that I would use, how I would measure the success of my goal. All right, so I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page, went over a few terms that I'll be using throughout this presentation. All right, now let's get to the good stuff. Why do we want to do market research? And I'll give you a hint, it's not just because Matthew Pisarski says so. It's a very good reason to, sorry Matt. But if we were just doing it obviously it's important for a reason, right? Matt says it's important. Matt says it's important because the state tells him it's important. Why else?
You can't change if you don't know what's going on around you.
If you don't know what's happening within your organization, how can you change it? It gives you awareness. Excellent. What else?
It proves why you need the funding for what you're looking for, and what you hope to do with that funding so that you can improve services or provide more resources to your community.
And it helps you make the case for your funding, right? Am I achieving my mission? How do I know? If my mission is to make art accessible to all, how do I know that all are coming? Who is all? Who are the people, right? And then I could prove something to write in your budget narrative, why the figures are what they are. What else? Come on, who didn't get a cookie, huh? All right, well, let's see. I gave us some hints, right? How about this one? Allows you to figure out who you're talking to, how to talk to them. If you know who you're talking to, you might be better informed to talk to them better.
Speak their language.
You probably literally speak their language, right? Make sure you're speaking their language, or reach them where they would be able to read it, right? Let's say, for example, Matt earlier mentioned like a Jewish film festival. Let's say you're writing a budget narrative, and let's say, hypothetically, there's no Asian Americans at your Jewish film festival. I find that highly unlikely. You might say, my target audience for this was Jewish Americans. Hopefully you can prove, well, that's another psychographic, right, religion. Hopefully you can prove that you're fulfilling your mission by reaching your target audience. And the only way you could do that is if you have audience demographics, right? Okay, so hopefully we're all here in the room because we collect market research and audience information. But what are the barriers, the average barriers to doing so? What might be like a reason why your organization might not do market research or might not collect audience information?
Finances.
Budget, right? It's expensive, it's time consuming, which time often equals money, right? Maybe technology. I heard mentioned earlier an issue with Excel. It's hard to figure out data if you can't collect all the data and look at it in one place.
Manpower.
Sorry?
Manpower?
Manpower. But do you have the people to do it, you know? It takes time, it takes a lot of, you have to have the people, you have to train them. You have to make sure that at every event, are they counting all the attendees? It takes a lot of manpower. Know-how. Yeah, right? Know-how is not going to be a barrier anymore because now you're all going to know, right? So that barrier, we've just crossed that barrier. All right, so two different approaches. This is sort of the very simplest terms. I like things simple. We're going to try to keep things as simple as possible. You could hire someone, meaning you could bring in someone outside your organization, or you could do it in-house, right? Those are the two main approaches. There's not really, I'm sure there's other things I'm not thinking of, but that's two ways to look at it. And there's pros and cons to both. So let's take a second and go through some of these. This was my thinking, this was my brainstorm. You can add to this. Maybe it's not a pro or con for you guys. Hiring a firm. And when I say firm, I don't necessarily mean like a fancy New York market research firm. It could be a grad student at your local community college, either grad students, they could be at a local university. Hopefully one of the pros would be accuracy. They're coming at it from a more objective standpoint, right? They have third-party objectivity. Maybe when you're going to talk to a board member and ask them for some feedback, they might not be as candid with you as they would with someone who they think you're never going to see again. Right? They're not going to have that memory, or that potentially be judgmental. It'll take up some staff time, right? You still have to go over the data, tell them what to do, give them access to your lists, etc. But it's not going to take up all of your staff time, that you could be doing on your programming, right? It's a little bit maybe potentially more time efficient. And if they're doing this professionally, hopefully they already have the technology, the know-how to do it, right? However, maybe this is a longer list than over here on the cons section, but this one might be a much more heavily weighted con than all of these pros. Yeah? Okay, cool. It costs a lot of money. It's going to cost more per hour because consultants have overhead. And I put this under a con. This is also probably a pro. There's industry standards that they have to maintain. But you know your audiences better than an outsider would. And so maybe there's industry standards that you wouldn't want them to maintain. Maybe like a better sense, or maybe there's an easier way to talk to someone or something. You don't want to say not say market research firms are offensive, but you know your people, right? So you wouldn't have to ask all the technical questions that. All right, other side. If you do it in-house, it saves you money, but it also is going to take up time that you're not fulfilling your mission. You might not have the third-party objectivity. You might consider yourself to be very objective. But are you? If you already know your audience, you're going to be a little biased going into it, right? There might be a learning curve because maybe all of your users want to take a mobile app survey to fill out their survey. And maybe you would need the technology to create a mobile app survey. So the list has more cons on the in-house side and more pros on the hire firm side. However, we all agree that this is more heavily weighted, and this is more heavily weighted. So I recommend, why not do a combo of the two? Apparently we don't have any fans of combos here. It's okay, it's bad for you, it's terrible.
It's a pizza.
It's junk food, you get it in a machine. Why not sort of find that happy medium? And so I'm really going to talk to you tonight about what that happy medium could be. How can you balance doing it all in-house? How could you maybe, pay $20 a month to use a survey monkey thing? Or where is it so that it makes life easier for you? Because I'm going to talk about getting the most bang for your buck, right? The most ROI, the return on your investment. How is it best for you in terms of money and your staff time, which is also money, right? Salary. So this is a long sentence. Use a third-party market research database. Does that make sense to anyone? Because it doesn't always make sense to me. What does that mean, right? Think of like Nielsen's, right? You heard like the commercials where suddenly they know what everyone's watching on TV and how many kids are there. How do they know that, right? It's magic or something. Or their big brother's watching you. Or they do a lot of market research, right? They might not know exactly who's in 1342 Sycamore Lane, but they probably know who's in 1345 Sycamore Lane. And what they do is, they sample the census data, or they sample their data where they've called up people and asked them questions, or had people come to a focus group, right? This all makes sense to us? So what would you guys need to do that? To use that? There's a company, how many people belong to Discover Arts? Are members? This is a membership organization, right? Does that, yeah, a couple? Discover Arts is a partner with TRG Arts. And I'm going to give a huge disclaimer here that I don't work for either of them. However, I like the program that they use. They have a database that if you upload your addresses to, for free, right, as you're part of it, well, I guess you have to join Discover Arts to get this benefit. The third-party market research base can dedupe your list for you if you're using a mail house, right? Can make sure that you're not spending valuable money. Stamps aren't cheap these days. Mailing 2 postcards to the same house. They do things like update the change of address forms. Maybe it's like every quarter now, the U.S. Postal Service sends out these lists. And I think they actually cost money too, right, to get the list, that you'd have to update your mailing addresses. And since they have all that information, they sample the census and independently research data and can give it to you for a very nominal fee, right? And you can then compare your list to all the demographics and psychographics.
May I interrupt?
Yeah.
So what if it's not necessarily your list, but a county list or something like that, sort of program that you're doing in a particular area, you send them that list as well?
Probably. How'd you come by that list? Like you have the list? Yeah. I mean, you would name it and then upload it and be fine. I'm, again, caveat, I don't work for them, right? So I can't answer all their questions, but I used it a lot in the past. And you can segment your list down to like a month if you wanted. How many people came to this event and have that list. And you don't have to share that information. You can keep it to yourself. You just have to make the information part of their database. And you can then trade the lists if you want to for free, trade them for free with other organizations within that partnership. And then you pay per number. I think there's a minimum number, which is very nominal, and then you pay per address to collect information. Okay, so I sort of lost the surprise here with Hannibal, but talking about objectivity, right? People recognize this, right? So someone can finish this quote for me. I'm ready for like the theater people to make the afterwards when it's cocktail hour. So being able to do this sort of takes some of that, sort of adds some anonymity to it, to having a third party come in. It adds objectivity. I mean, certainly, I'm hoping if you go to your board member's house and ask them how many kids are in their residence, they're not gonna, I'm gonna forget what it is. They're not gonna eat you with fava beans and a nice Chianti. But you don't have to do it, right? You don't have to even take that chance. You could use someone else who's already done it. So what do you need to do it? Nominal budget. I think the lowest you could ask is like something for like 1,000 names, and it's $25. So So even if your operating budget's $50,000 a year or less, $10 says you can afford $25 to get some market research, get some audience demographics sent to you via email. But in order to do so, you actually need their residential addresses, not necessarily their mailing addresses, right? Because you won't be able to know if it's a P.O. box. Does that make sense? You have to actually know where they live. So, integrate getting mailing addresses and doing surveying as part of every program. What metrics can you set in place so that you have this as an ongoing part of your organization, so that it doesn't become, oh God, how are we going to get an address for all those donors? Or we had a free event at the library. How are we going to find out who all was there? Integrate it into your planning. So while you're figuring out, we have to reserve the space, we have to hire security, or whatever you have to figure out. Figure out how you're going to get, is it a fishbowl for business cards? Is it an opt-in list like Matt had when you come in? And instead of just, I mean, it's very easy nowadays, we email everyone, right? How many people have like sliced their direct mail campaigns in thirds? Because you email them now, right? But you still need their addresses. So how do we collect their addresses? Probably you already have them and you're not thinking about it, or hopefully you are thinking about it because I'm mentioning it right now. But if you have attendance, if people pay by credit card, it's another nice thing about technology these days is everyone pays by credit card. Well, you need their billing address to run their credit card. So keep it. Get rid of their credit card number, that's fraud. Opt-in mailing list, we all have them on our website, right, to get their email addresses. Why not email your opt-in email address, ask them a couple, five question survey. We're going to talk about incentives later on. Get them to enter into a contest for a door prize at your next event. But you're going to need their, be transparent about it. You can tell them we're a small nonprofit. We need your email addresses just for audience demographic information. We're not going to sell it. I mean, keep true to your word, right? But be transparent about it. If you have a donor, you're sending them a thank you letter, you already have their email, their mailing address, right? And again, simple is best. So like the sign-in sheet that hopefully you all signed when you entered today, it's going to take, what, 2 extra lines for people to write down their address? It's a pretty simple way to collect addresses. It's also a simple way to know what the head count was. To know, without even pulling the demographic information from a third-party researcher, what the zip codes were, so you can tell how many people came from Millville, Vineland, out of state, right? Alright, so now it's a more important question, right? Let's say we all have it. We're all planning. This is integrated with all of our strategic planning, with our event planning. This is part of our process. We're going to be thinking, how do we talk more with our audience members? How do we collect their addresses? How are we going to figure out how to talk with them through a survey or ask them questions, whatever else? What do we do with them? I love to segment lists. What do I mean by that? Who can tell me what I mean by that? Who segments lists?
Break it down demographically.
Break it down by demographics. Break it down by time, chronology. When did I meet this person? When did this person donate? If you have Excel, pretty easy. You could have like 10 sheets in one workbook in Excel. Different lists. Does that make sense? Who came to an event, right? Matt's going to have a list of people who came to this event. Who's going to use it when you guys apply for your grants. See who listened to him. He's probably also going to see who came last year. If you didn't get a grant, he could see what people who didn't get a grant. They didn't come to his grant workshop. Right? I'm picking on you a lot tonight. And now, okay, so this is going to take time because you have to keep it very organized. people don't have legible handwriting. Everyone's a doctor when they're signing an opt-in sheet. But if you're going to try to upload it to a database like the eMERGE system on TR that TRG Arts has, you have to have all the separated columns. It's like prefix, and then there's one for the first name, and then middle initial, and then last name, right? We've all seen these. Because you won't get accurate information if you don't do it correctly. Address 1, address line 1, address line 2, right? But if you are already doing this for your mailing, if you do mail merge, right, to mail out your donor, your annual appeal letter, you have to do this. So keep it. You can also keep these lists and upload them directly to your, whatever your email marketing campaign is. If you're doing Constant Contact or MailChimp or Vertical Response, you can upload the same list and you would just tell that platform which column is email addresses. There's no reason that you have to, you can segment these lists to your heart's content, but there's no reason you have to format them differently for different uses. Does that make sense? So simple is best. Okay, so let's go over survey types again. Interviews, meaning like person to person. It could be a phone interview, right? That's probably how Nielsen does it all, right? They call you, what are you watching right now? Exit interview, not like when you get fired from a job. Exit interview, like when you leave and then I catch you at the door and I say, how did you like tonight's presentation? And you say, it was awesome. And then I say, where do you live? No, I'm not going to follow you. Yeah, or in person, right? You can invite someone. That's probably best with donors or board members. Focus group. Some people run focus groups. It's a fancy name for when you get a bunch of people in a room and you give them some baked goods. Talk to them. Ask them questions. And then get their addresses. Questionnaires, this is like a fancier word for survey, I guess. Online questionnaire, we talked about like SurveyMonkey. I think it's free still if you have 10 questions or less, and you have a list of less than like 10,000 people, which most of us do, right? And I don't really, 10 questions or less is probably a good amount to ask most people. You could also use Google Forms, it's free. Free is good, right? Paper surveys. So if I passed out a piece of paper and asked you guys a couple of questions, and then asked you to write down your, and then the time-consuming part, right, is entering it all into a computer. Mobile surveys is a new thing, a lot of fun. You cannot ask more than like 5 questions though, because everyone's looking at their phone and their phone's going to ring, or they're going to think about text messaging their brother, and they're not going to fill out the form. Our attention spans have diminished completely. But if you want to get fancy, you can rent the technology to create a mobile app for $200 to $400. You don't have to have thousands of dollars anymore to use this technology. All right, so this is a very important word. Because why does someone, I'm talking about how you can talk to someone and get their information. Why would they want to talk to you? Well, hopefully they really like you, right? And hopefully they're already very involved or invested. Maybe they are board members or donors or volunteers, whatever. And that's sort of, if you will, like the low-hanging fruit, right? Those are the people who would be easy to talk to. And I'm going to hopefully make you think that they might not be the best people to talk to because they already really like you. And if they've been a core group, they're probably not your target audience. They're coming anyway. Why do you need to continue marketing to them? I mean, you want to maintain them, but they're not your target audience, right? Let's say you're going out to a restaurant, you want to figure out where to go for dinner. You're going to look on Yelp. Probably the majority of the reviews are either really, really good really, really bad. Right? Not very often do we read a Yelp review that's like, the dinner was all right, like, no one sort of gives you that, or no one really gives you that median average visit. You have to go find that. You have to get that person to talk to you. So how do you get that person to talk to you? With incentives. You motivate them to talk to you. Give me an example of some incentives that you guys probably already use.
We just did a show, we had a survey at the end of the show. After all the runs were done, we picked a name, that person, we have 2 tickets for our next show.
A drawing, give them a free gift. Everyone loves to be a winner. Right? You don't have to tell them how slim their chances are at actually winning. We've been running the same contest for 3 years. Hopefully, people want to see the winner. But that's a great, because what? It cost you guys very, very little. You had to, maybe that's lost income, but 2 tickets of lost income, right? Not much at all. What else? Give me another example. Let's see if I have examples. I have examples. Well, this is sort of the easiest, right? People like to be appreciated. What does WHYY, or we have WHYY here? They do their annual, what's it called? Their phone-a-thon, they thank you, publicly, on the air, or after every PBS program they show. Thank you to our loyal supporters and members like you, right? Does that sound familiar? And then you feel special and you feel like I made a difference and you were thanked. That cost you nothing, right? Maybe whatever the energy it was, it cost you the energy to say those words. And nowadays too, you could send them a thank you as email. You don't really even have to send them, or you could put it up in the back page of your program. Something very simple. Like the opportunity to have a contest or win 3 tickets, offer them a reason to come back. Because everyone likes a nice discount or coupon, right? Think about, let's incorporate this into your audience engagement techniques. Give them a buy one, get one, or bring a friend for free. So then not only do they get to come again, hopefully they're going to pay, right? Or at least half price, 50%. But they're going to bring someone new to your organization. So if they give you their address, you're going to mail them a bring a friend for free pass. Now you're going to say to me, but Rachel, our events are free. I will think of something else.
Go ahead. I was going to say the other day, we tried Groupon for the first time.
Groupon?
Yeah, we did a buy one, get one free on that. We sold out within a half an hour of it in the internet.
Wow. So people like to come to that. Now the only problem, or the only, not problem, I say problem, obstacle or challenge to using something like Groupon, right, is that you get only 25% of the fee. You split it with Groupon. And Groupon is very mean, they're very territorial. They do not give you their mailing list or their addresses. So when those people from Groupon come, you have to have a little sign that says, welcome Groupon people, sign up, so that you get their addresses. Because Groupon does not give those out freely, or ever. What else? How about this side of the room? What else? What other incentives? How do you get people to be involved in your organization?
Food.
Food! That's what Matt does, right? That's why you guys all came tonight. You wanted this great spread in the back. Come to a focus group, there's pizza. You probably have all college kids, but no, get it nice. Yeah, that's a great idea. Everyone loves to eat. You can give them a small gift, right?
After work, don't have to go home and cook. Come to the workshop.
He's writing your marketing plan for you, right? Small gift, right? Little trinket. Getting more creative with it. You can give them a coupon to come and get a trinket. There, that's what you do with the free library, right? Email them out a coupon. Come back to our next event, show us this email, and you get this $1 keychain. This is one that probably works if you have like a special event. You've seen all these like fancy, get your photo taken with the mascot or make it a signed photo, or that's free, right? Get my smartphone out and take a photo with one of the actors, or the artist at the art opening, or the executive director, because that's exciting. And special events are also a really great way to incentivize people to come, because it makes them feel appreciated and special, right? That's why they're called special events. But it also gives you a further way to engage with them. It makes them feel, I don't know, elitist or something within the crowd. And I'm sure this is not this is not an exclusive list. There's probably a lot more. This could be a lot more comprehensive. But that's a great start, right? 5 things that you could take and think of. Okay, so, oh good, okay. So what have we learned so far? My recommendations, right, to keep thinking about metrics. How am I going to measure success? And keep that as part of your planning process for every program or campaign. What is success? How to define success, and then figure out how to measure it. I used earlier the example of bringing in new donors. If I'm having a fundraising event, I don't want the same 5 donors to keep giving because there's this thing called donor fatigue, right? Eventually they're not going to give anymore. They're going to find something else to give to. So find new donors and figure out a way. If I consider this event successful, if I bring in 100 new donors, how am I going to measure if I got 100 new donors? And then figure out how to measure that. How am I going to compare those lists? We have to have the lists to begin with, right? If I'm having a Facebook campaign, right? Everyone thinks of social media as free. But Facebook changed its algorithms like a year ago, and no one sees anything on Facebook anymore unless you boost your post, right? Do these words annoy everyone else? Okay. Boost my posts? Sounds dirty. So let's say I pay $10 to boost the post of whatever event is happening. How can I see if that $10 was worth it? What is my return on that investment? How am I going to measure if that social media ad campaign was successful? Well, I better use Facebook Insights, so Google Analytics, and track who came from Facebook to my website or to my ticket sales page. If you don't have Google Analytics, you should get it, it's free. But that's okay, because if you're doing event registration online, brown paper tickets, it's free. It has analytics, right? Ticketly, free, has analytics. They even have tracking codes that you could give out to people. If you hyperlink in your email to a specific tracking code, and you give that link to everyone that came to an event or came to your board meeting. Let's use board members. You could use that tracking code and see how many people came in through your board members. Right? Does that make sense? And again, going back to simple is best, right? Let's use the simplest ways to get the most return on our investment, right? Everyone has a limited budget, you've limited time, you've all already put in a 12-hour day, right? How can we figure out the best ways to make this most worthwhile for you and your organization? How are you going to see the biggest return on it? First, you have to figure out what that return is, and then just figure out very simple, don't overcomplicate things. If you're thinking about needing to fill out the grant form for Cumberland County Cultural and Heritage Commission, what do you need for that form? And what's the simplest way to get it? And probably what you need is also like percentages, right? Right, Matt? Yeah. So you don't have to count every single ticket. You just have to have general, you don't have to have like the exact decimal point. You need to know 50%, 75%, what is, census figures, big round numbers. All right, so I want to take a second to take a break. But don't leave, right? So we're going to go over a couple of exercises, but I wanted to make sure we had time to think for a second and if there were any points of clarification that we could ask them now.
familiar with Eventbrite?
I am familiar with
Do
them.
you recommend that?
I do.
Okay.
I think they're good. Yeah. For online tickets, Eventbrite is like an online box office for it. It's also a way to get RSVPs, right? Yeah, that's right. With Eventbrite, you don't have to actually sell tickets. So if you have a free event, I knew this would come up again. If you have a free event, encourage people, incentivize people to RSVP. And while they're at it, give you their mailing address and sign up for your email newsletter, right? And just figure out, limited, figure out what that incentive is, whether it's limited availability or first 10 people that come get a cookie, whatever you figure out, what motivates people to come to your events, try to get them to come. And actually, it's proven that if people RSVP to an event, they're more likely to come. It sounds kind of silly when you think about it. But if I tell someone I'm going to come, I'm more likely to come than if I didn't tell them I was going to come, even if I planned to come. Eventbrite's great. And then you can use their tracking codes. And Eventbrite has calendar integration. So if I sign up to come to this grant writing workshop on Eventbrite, it's going to ask me, would you like to add this to your calendar? Right? That's a good. And then I click, yes, please remind me to come to this event. All right, what else? Any other questions?
Just a comment, market research is fundable through our grant. So if you're going to use market research for your program or event, you can put it under outside fees and services, non-art.
Can I just repeat that for everyone?
Sure.
So outside fees and services, non-art, you can put this into your budget.
Does that need to be matched as well?
Well, yeah, if you're going to ask grant money for that, then you've got to have, a match somewhere in your budget for that. It doesn't have to be, if it's going to cost you $250, you don't have to ask for, $150 in that. You can ask full $250 so long as somewhere else in your budget you have cash match of $250 somewhere. Cool.
Any other questions? All right, we have brain power level. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
We keep talking about new audiences, what about audience retention?
That's a great question. What about it specifically? Like how to make sure we keep it?
Something different about the way you might incentivize that or...
Yeah. So one of my clients had a theater production, and one of the ways they wanted to engage, so subscriptions, right, are sort of the way that theaters traditionally engage audience retention. However, I predict, you can write this down, Rachel predicts subscriptions will be gone in 5 to 10 years max. No one subscribes anymore. Why should I anyway? I can get a Groupon for half the price. What is my... We don't have to talk about why subscriptions are going to be gone. But they said, if you come back with a friend, you get it free. So it was the same bring a friend for free discount, but I'm talking specifically to the person I want to come back. Or it's another way to sort of get them re-engaged. That's why often they'll have added value events, right? We use this word added value in marketing because it's often when you do an event that doesn't cost you anything, but it seems like it costs something to the user. Like a talk back, I mean, I'm on theater kick right now. A meet the artist at a gallery opening, meet the author at the library, an exclusive with the kids in the youth development group, or have the kids in the youth development group take pictures with their iPhones and then print the pictures and give them exclusive, have an event where you exclusively give them to the people who are going to come back, but they have to come back to get it, right? Yeah, I mean, it's very easy with Google Analytics to track return users to your website. Obviously, you could track repeat ticket buyers. And that's normally when you think of that ladder of audience engagement, get someone in the door, ask them to sign up on your list, ask them to come to pay to come to an event, ask them to donate. Ask them to donate and volunteer. Ask them to come be a board member, whatever that highest level of engagement is. That's where you just sort of figure out what's going to incentivize them to get further up that ladder. That's a great question, though. We do talk a lot about new, different. And one of the, if I can go off on the side tangent for a second, crowdfunding is super popular right now. It's all about this one specific project, and it's this big flashy idea, and you're going to bring in new donors, a lot of new donors, because it's micro gifts, right? They're small. You're going to raise $1,000, but you're going to do it by bringing in all these little $10 gifts. That's great, but then what do you do with those donors after that campaign is done? Because that program is, you raised the money, you succeeded. Goodbye, So that's a great way to start to think about, if I have this list, you segment that list, right? So that's a separate list, that you know who those people were that came, who donated to that crowdfunding. And then you figure out how to get them re-engaged. What else? Any other questions? You have to ask me one more question, because I'm about to ask you questions. It's only fair. And it's my turn. All right, so let's pretend, do we have community centers here? Well, we have youth development, we have cultural centers. All right, so it doesn't really matter who we pretend it is. Random, anonymous cultural centers holding a free event. How can they collect addresses or collect other data from attendees, and what data is best for them to collect? Right, we already sort of went over this one because we discussed the free events, but who wants to tell me what we decided was best?
We did that when we came in here.
What's that?
We did the best thing when we came in here. We got our names.
Super easy, right?
Right.
You can even have someone at that free event.
And I
Motivate, please come in. Hi, how are you? Sign up.
supervise it and get some more.
Always have a guest book for people, because in labeling a guest book, it makes them feel a little bit special as well, so.
It already identifies them as guests, right? They're not just freebies, coming in for free, but they're guests. It's better marketing.
Door prizes, rest.
Yeah, exactly. Because then, again, you only have to pay for one, or maybe not even pay, maybe just give away a free ticket. Give away a free ticket to a free special event, that you're making just for them. Does that make sense? Are we all cool with that one? All right, after pulling demographic and psychographic information, Gallery 369 realizes that 80% of their donors have children. And when you pull information like from Nielsen's or from this TRG Arts, it's amazing to me what kind of information it tells you. It tells you what their political affiliation is, how many grandchildren birth to 3 they have, how many cats or dogs are in the red. It's serious Big Brother issues right here, but you can benefit from this. So how can they use this information to their benefit?
It all depends upon how old the children are. Are they adult children or are they kitty children?
Okay, so that's a great point. So let's assume they're kiddie children, right? Let's say they're under 18.
Well, presuming that may be an art gallery, art workshops for kids.
Exactly. Change your programming or offer new programming, right?
Yeah, I was going to say redirect them to their program.
Redirect their programming to better fit their core audience, right? Or maybe if they, go ahead.
I was going to say, make sure that you're having events not at times where children need a lot of care. So like around between 7:30 and 9:30, children are getting ready for bed, they're eating dinner, it's hard to get out to an event at that time.
That is a great suggestion. So you're not changing your programming, you're just changing the logistics. You're better tailoring your programming to fit the needs of your audience. Maybe if their mission is geared towards adults programming, maybe they have like a Bring Your Child Day or something like that, where they're not changing their entire programming, they're just adding one event. Or maybe they send out Mother's Day cards to their donor list.
show specializing in children's art?
Have an art show specializing in children's art. We already know they like kids, they have them.
And if their child
Hopefully they
is
like
a
them.
featured artist, then they would
Then they'll definitely come. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, XYZ Historic House is planning a marketing campaign to publicize the signature. Let's make it an annual event. Attendance figures over the last few years show a decline, although the same core of patrons attend. How can this historic house draw data-driven conclusions as to why this is happening? This is like you have to think twice for this one.
Check the age of the participants.
Could check the age of the participants. What's that going to tell them?
Well, they're all over 70, that'll tell you what happened to some of them.
They moved to Florida. They moved to Florida. Go ahead.
I would look at the group of attendees and I would see if there are common characteristics among them, and then find from the last database that I had and compare them and see if there are people who, if there's something missing from that group who aren't.
To see what's the same or where the difference is. So see what common characteristics are within that core audience. And if you have other, from another database, let's say, this is a historic house. So maybe they could also trade a list with another historic house and ask specifically for the lists who match the characteristics. Right? Does that make sense?
Is the event getting stale?
Does the event need to change?
Is it something where it's the same old, same old?
We've done the event year after year. That's more qualitative? Yeah, that probably happens a lot. But you probably have to also ask people, right, to find that out. You can make that assumption, but you'd want to, that's a very likely hypothesis, but you'd want to ask to make sure it was data-driven.
Recall.
Okay?
Locally, the demographics of the area have changed in the past 30 years.
Exactly. Okay, so here's where I said you have to think twice, right? That's dead on. So you're going to take this historic house list. Who are the people that are coming to this event? Maybe look at how it was attended when it was attended well. And then sample the census data to see how your geographic constituency has changed where your core audience is not. And then what does that tell you? It tells you who you're going to target next. It might tell you how to adapt your programming to reach that target audience, but it tells you if you're only pulling from a 30-minute drive, you could figure that out with census data, who falls within that radius, right? And that's your target audience. Maybe it's a high percentage of Hispanic Latino population, and you need to do bilingual marketing. Maybe it's an aging population, and they don't like to come to events at 8, 9 o'clock at night. Maybe it's they all have kids, and they also don't like to come to events at 8, 9 o'clock at night. Maybe we should never have events at 8, 9 o'clock at night. All right, let's do one more, so we still have time for questions. All right, so theater has maintained ticket income for the past few seasons. However, they are now selling more lower-priced tickets and fewer full-price tickets. This is a very common trend right now, right? We're still doing the same amount of income, but we're doing so much more service to get that income. Upon researching the lower-priced ticket buyers, they discover that 65% are senior citizens. How can this theater use this information to improve their ticket revenue? So clearly this isn't your Groupon crowd, but they're your coupon. What do we think?
Target a younger population.
You could start to target a younger population with a higher disposable income. That's a great idea. What else?
Offer pricing for a senior group package. Like a busload, bring a busload of seniors to the event?
That's a great idea. Clearly work with the senior crowd a little bit there.
Right.
Or you could figure, if they're gonna come, right, this is a theater, this is a theater. Theaters have preview nights. Theaters have matinees. Maybe they just drop the price of a matinee. That way they have to do less marketing for these discounts. Or they can concentrate their marketing for discounts for Groupon and bring in younger audiences that way and maintain, oh here we go, audience retention. Maintain the senior citizens, but let them come at a time that still gives you the most return on your investment. Make them come at a time that frees up the full price tickets for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that means.
Cool. All right, so, well, that's an hour, so now I have a little bit of time, 15, 20, 30 minutes, maybe max, to go over questions. I do have more slides. If you had questions about what to do with it, or what kind of questions we want to ask on a survey. So let's ask, and then I will figure out, instead of talking through 50 more slides, because it's about 8 o'clock now, and I want to make sure we don't go over our schedule.
Can you go through those slides just a slight bit
Slower.
slower than you just
Pie chart.
Okay, how many classes you attend? Okay, you need to, as long as I can read what it says.
So this is a qualitative question,
Yeah.
right? This has to do with psychographics. What level of engagement, what engages people before, during, and after your performance? And this was, I did just recently finished a lot of work with theaters. I have a lot of theater clients. This was actually one of my favorite. This was the name of the show. And can you read this?
Infinite Ache.
Infinite Ache. But this was my favorite response. I didn't do anything to prepare for this show. I mean, most people would actually say this, because they don't realize actually that going to your website is preparing. Anything, you know what I mean? Like if you think about it, if you're talking about audience engagement, how do people find out about you? How did you prepare for this evening? Well, you obviously found out about the show, right? You didn't just randomly show up at the theater half an hour before the curtain. Did they read the program notes? This was a big one. Because a lot of theaters now hypothesize that no one reads them. Who gives a... well, because I think if you're like a theater usher or something, you see all the programs on the floor at the end of the, theater staff back here is nodding, and you think, I didn't even like my program. You know, it costs on average like $1 or more to print those things, and then people step on them on the way out.
It's because of all the actors who thank their cat.
Right. So better artist bios in the program.
Yes.
Or editor.
Independent by a third party.
By Hannibal Lecter. Yeah. A lot of people are putting videos in email newsletters now to try to get people more engaged to come to events. But if you think about your mission, that's a great way to tell funders that you're fulfilling your mission, because if you interview the artistic director in a YouTube video, and then you find out that 500 people watched that video, that's not only, it's a metric, right? That's a form of measuring how successful your campaign was. It's a way of figuring out how to engage your audience. It's marketing, because hopefully they'll come buy a ticket.
Is there a thing where you're sort of pressing online in your YouTube page?
Yeah, okay, so the question is, like, sort of like, where's that sweet spot? Are you crossing the line? Because so two thoughts, right? In the marketing world right now, there's this thing called native marketing. You guys heard about this? I don't know, it's a stupid term. Native marketing is, you've seen this. It's like in a magazine where it says like, this is not, what's it say? It says like, this is paid sponsorship or something like that. And then it's an article, or it's an ad made to look like an article, and you get halfway through it and you're like, what, is this selling me something? You're like, it's not editorial, but it's made to look like it, right? So they do this now with YouTube videos too, where, I can't think of one when I'm on the spot. Whatever, it'll be a funny little, it'll be longer than a commercial, right? It'll be like an hour, it'll be like a minute and a half. You got an example?
Duke did this with their beauty campaign or whatever, where they had all the women look at pictures that they drew
that was a great
themselves.
one. Yes, yes.
But it's really an advertisement for Dove.
Yeah, so Dove has this campaign where it asked women to describe to an artist what they looked like. And then they had someone else come in and describe to the same artist what that first person looked like. And wouldn't you know it, if the person described themselves as uglier than the person who was looking at them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then at the end it was like, sponsored by Dove. That's a great, I mean, yeah, that's made it, so that's made, and that's actually where, in my opinion, sometimes it crosses the line, but as a marketer, I'm like, yes, we got them. Or you'll see something that has nothing to do with, what was that Game of Thrones spoof? Do you remember? There was like the Game of Thrones House of Cards spoof. Oh. And then at the end it was like by Red Bull, or I don't know. And at the end, like they were drinking, it was like a mashup of Game of Thrones and House of Cards. And then at the end, the main character is like, I just need a Red Bull, or I don't remember what it was. And that product placement. So without crossing that line, I would think you'd be safe, especially because as nonprofits, people expect a certain level of transparency, right? I mean, obviously you can get their tax, you can get a nonprofit's tax return. I could find out how much you all make for salary. Like there's already that level of transparency, and so I think people expect more from nonprofits. They expect nonprofits to be more ethical or something. But that doesn't say you still can't be as outrageous, right? Think about this like ice bucket challenge. Why didn't I think of that?
The fact that we get all these sound bites and they talk about people's attention spans now are 15 seconds or less. I mean, how does that impact on things like, I was even thinking like reading program notes. Well, first of all, sometimes in a program you have to find the things in the program notes. And
there's so many ads, right?
Yeah, or things like surveys. I mean, is there something now that says a survey shouldn't be more than 5 questions because you know they don't answer more than that? Or?
Well, okay, so that's a great question. How can you sort of balance the amount of time that someone else is going to put into taking your survey with what they will get out of it? Does that make sense? Like, trying to find that sweet spot. Because, so for example, for this client, they're in a suburb of Philadelphia, an urban, like very diverse in terms of income and racial makeup, and kind of in age. I don't know actually how diverse the age range was with this suburb, but they hypothesized that they had a lot of mobile users in the audience. And like I said earlier, if you're going to do a mobile survey, you can't have that many questions at all. First off, your screen's tiny on your phone. Right? So if you have to sort of balance what it is that someone's putting into the survey, what it takes someone to do the survey, and what they're going to get from it. So for that example, we had a coupon at the end of the mobile survey. This was only the mobile survey. We can talk about how much we targeted our audiences, even for our market research, to figure out target audiences. And we offered them a free drink because we thought, okay, they're young, right? Hopefully they're 21 or over. They have smartphones. They're going to be able to use this technology. We're going to ask them a limited amount of questions because we know that they can't think about anything for more than a minute. And then our incentive fit their demographic. Right? We offered them a beer or something. I forgot what, a drink, alcoholic beverage. For a focus group, you know that you're going to be in person, you can automatically assume you'll have more time with someone, because it's very rude if I just come up to you and I'm like, okay, quick, how old are you? What's where do you live? Goodbye, So you're going to have more of an interaction with them, so you can ask more information, but you're probably buying them lunch, right? We talked about what's going to incentivize them to come. You have to have the food, you have to There's a larger reward is what I'm saying. They're giving you more info, but their reward is bigger. What's another example? So with the trends online right now, it used to be you didn't want people to scroll through their online survey. Right? So if you're doing SurveyMonkey, and actually I don't know if you can do this in the free version, but you wouldn't want to have, no one was able to like think that there was more info down below and you'd have to scroll up. So we'd rather have 2 questions that just filled their window on their desktop, and then they would click to the next page and there'd be 2 more questions. Now, nobody clicks, they click out of a window before they'll click to another page. So now we scroll. And I don't know if that's also just because as technology has advanced, we've become more comfortable with it, so people know that there's more info down below to scroll up to. Does that make sense? So I guess really to answer your questions, it really depends on who and how and when. But again, that's a great question to think about because you won't know how to figure it out correctly unless you know who your audience is, right? So we need to have audience information. Okay, so here's sample questions. These are seriously just like the most basic sample questions. You guys probably already do this more. This actually was an event, right? This isn't a theater, or it's an event at a theater. So I think people have subscriptions, right? We went over this last year, right? I went over this. Cool. Any other questions? All right, I'll tell you what, I know it's late. I'm gonna hang out because Matt's paying me to be here till 8:30. So if you have questions and wanna come talk with me.
You get paid?
I'm not that engaged, you know.
All right, thank you, Rachel, very much. Please grab some more food and chill, hang out a little bit. Both Rachel and I are here to field any questions. Thank you very much for coming by tonight.